One evening, as Linda and Loretta were walking to the mall, they came across a man being publicly humiliated by his wife. The woman slapped him, pushed him out of the car, and drove off in a rage. While Loretta felt bad for the man and suggested they move on, Linda saw an opportunity. Despite her friend's warnings, Linda approached the man, offering him comfort. Linda struck up a conversation with the man, whose name was Obinna. As he shared his story of financial troubles and an abusive marriage, Linda pretended to be sympathetic, but inside, she was disappointed to hear that his business had failed. Still, Obinna revealed that he had just landed a high-paying job and was considering leaving his wife. Sensing an opportunity, Linda saw Obinna as her next big target. Linda encouraged Obinna to leave his wife and start a new life with her, feeding his desire to escape his troubled marriage. Linda was born into a deeply religious family, the only child of Pastor and Mrs. Adams, who led one of the largest Catholic congregations in the city. Growing up, she was the epitome of a devout Christian. As Linda prepared to go to college, her parents, in their protective nature, handed her an old Nokia phone, thinking it would keep her from being influenced by social media and the vices that came with modern technology. Linda smiled, assuring her parents that she would remain the perfect daughter they had raised. Little did they know, once she stepped foot into the university, her secret life began. She switched the Nokia phone for an iPhone 16 and quickly adapted to a world of parties, fast money, and questionable relationships. She started hanging out with rich boys, often the type involved in dubious activities, and older married men who could foot her bills without asking questions. Her beauty and charisma made her irresistible. Her best friend Loretta often warned her about the dangers of her lifestyle, begging her to stop before it was too late. But Linda would laugh, mocking Loretta's innocence, telling her that keeping herself pure for marriage was pointless. In a world where men had 200 body counts before settling down, Loretta, however, remained firm in her beliefs, focused on her studies, and resisted the temptations that surrounded her. Linda, meanwhile, continued to live a double life, pretending to be the perfect pastor's daughter whenever she visited home, but becoming a completely different person at school. Linda became more entangled in her lifestyle. She started to receive calls from the wives of the married men she was involved with. These women begged her to leave their husbands alone, telling her how their families were suffering due to their husband's infidelity. Linda, however, showed no empathy. She often laughed at these women, telling them that rich men are the national cake and available to everyone. She even advised them to improve their skills in bed and give their husbands peace if they wanted to keep them. To Linda, these men were merely a means to an end, a source of money and gifts. She did not care about the broken homes left in her wake, only the luxury lifestyle she was accustomed to. Loretta, horrified by Linda's lack of remorse, tried once again to steer her friend back to the right path, but Linda brushed her off, telling her to stop being so righteous and enjoy life while she was still young. One evening, as Linda and Loretta were walking to the mall, they came across a man being publicly humiliated by his wife. The woman slapped him, pushed him out of the car, and drove off in a rage. While Loretta felt bad for the man and suggested they move on, Linda saw an opportunity. Despite her friend's warnings, Linda approached the man, offering him comfort. Linda struck up a conversation with the man, whose name was Obinna. As he shared his story of financial troubles and an abusive marriage, Linda pretended to be sympathetic, but inside, she was disappointed to hear that his business had failed. Still, Obinna revealed that he had just landed a high-paying job and was considering leaving his wife. Sensing an opportunity, Linda saw Obinna as her next big target, and they exchanged numbers before parting ways. Linda and Obinna grew closer. Though Linda usually charged men for her time, she decided to play the long game with Obinna, hoping to squeeze more out of him once she earned his trust. They met frequently in hotels, where Obinna confided in her about his strange marriage and financial aspirations. Linda pretended to care, listened to his dreams of relocating to another country and making millions from his business ventures. Obinna's wife continued to call him during their meetings, screaming insults at him over the phone. Linda encouraged Obinna to leave his wife and start a new life with her, feeding his desire to escape his troubled marriage. Loretta, noticing that Linda was spending more money than usual, warned her to be careful. But Linda, convinced that she had found her ticket to a luxurious life, ignored her friend's advice. Linda's strategy seemed to be working perfectly. Obinna continued to open up to her, revealing more about his investment and future plans. He even started asking her for money to help collect containers or fund business deals. Blinded by her greed, Linda willingly gave him the money, confident that she would reap the benefits later. However, as time passed, Obinna began asking for larger sums. Linda's funds began to dwindle. She noticed that her usual rich clients were no longer calling her, and the money she had set aside for her university grades were gone. Obinna assured her that he would repay her once his investments came through. But Linda started to feel uneasy. Despite her growing doubts, she continued to give him money, clinging to the belief that Obinna would soon make her dreams come true. Weeks passed and Linda's financial situation worsened. Her once steady stream of clients had dried up, and the university professors she used to bribe for grades were no longer as accessible. Worse still, Obinna continued to ask for money under the guise of helping collect containers or invest in deals. But Linda was growing suspicious. No returns had come from any of the investments he promised, and every time she pressed him for repayment, he assured her that his windfall was just around the corner. Her life of luxury was beginning to crumble, and Loretta's warnings now echoed louder in her mind. Loretta had noticed Linda's change in mood and asked her about it. Despite her pride, Linda confided in her best friend, admitting that she had been lending Obinna large sums of money and that nothing was coming back. Loretta's response was stern but caring. She reminded Linda that a relationship based on deception and greed would not end well. But Linda, still blinded by her ambition for a better life, refused to let go of the idea that Obinna was her way out. One morning, as Linda and Loretta were cleaning the house during a sanitation day, Linda suddenly felt nauseous. She dashed to the bathroom and began vomiting violently. Loretta rushed to her side, concerned. After a few moments, Linda composed herself, but something felt off. Worried, Loretta suggested they get a pregnancy test kit, just to be sure. Linda hesitated, dread creeping up on her. Could it be she hadn't been careful during her time with Obinna, trusting him blindly? When they returned with the kit, Linda nervously took the test, praying for a negative result. But her heart sank as she saw the positive line appear. She was pregnant. This was not part of her plan. Fear and shame washed over her as she thought about her street father and the church community. Loretta tried to calm her, but Linda was inconsolable. How would she explain this? What would her parents say? Terrified, Linda decided to call Obinna and tell him about the pregnancy, hoping that he would take responsibility. She tried his number several times, but he did not answer. With each unanswered call, her panic grew. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he picked up. Her voice trembling, told him that she was pregnant and that they needed to talk. There was a long pause before Obinna began to laugh. The sound was cruel and dismissive. Pregnant? Do you think I'm the only one you have been sleeping with? That child isn't mine, he said, his words dripping with scorn. Linda's heart chattered as she tried to explain, but Obinna cut her off and coldly told her to find the real father before hanging up and blocking her number again. Linda was left in stunned silence. Her worst fears confirmed. She had been used and discarded, and now she was on her own. As she sat alone in her room, staring at the pregnancy test kit, her parents had always warned her about bringing disgrace to the family. And now, with a child on the way and no husband in sight, Linda knew she had crossed the line. The fear of her father's wrath gripped her, and the shame of being the church disgraced pastor's daughter gnawed at her soul. Loretta, though sympathetic, urged her to go to Obinna's house and make a scene, forcing him to take responsibility. But Linda, defeated, confessed that she did not know where Obinna lived. They had always met at hotels, and she had no way of tracking him down. Linda realized she could not hide her pregnancy much longer. Her body was already showing signs of change, and she dreaded the moment her parents would find out. Desperate, she considered getting an abortion, but the thought of risking her life terrified her. She remembered the stories she had heard of girls who did not survive, and she did not want to be another statistic. In a moment of weakness, Linda confided in her mother. One evening, when her father was at church, she sat her mother down and revealed the truth about her pregnancy. Her mother's face went pale as she listened, tears welling up in her eyes. But rather than shouting, her mother simply whispered, "What will your father do when he finds out?" Linda's heart broke at the thought. Her father had always been strict, and she knew he would disown her for disgracing the family. Her mother, torn between her loyalty to her husband and her love for her daughter, promised to keep the secret at least for a while. Despite her mother's promise to keep quiet, the truth could not stay hidden for long. One morning, Linda's father noticed that she was avoiding his gaze and that her behavior had become increasingly withdrawn. Suspecting something was wrong, he pressed her mother for answers. Under pressure, her mother broke down and confessed everything. Linda's pregnancy, her double life at the university, and the lies she had been telling for months. Pastor Adams was livid. He felt betrayed, not only by his daughter but by his wife, for hiding such a monumental secret. His face hardened as he stormed into Linda's room, demanding answers. Linda, shaking with fear, tried to explain, but her father would hear none of it. He shouted, declaring that she had brought shame upon the family and the church. In his rage, he disowned her on the spot, telling her that she was no longer welcome in his home or his life. Linda's worst nightmare had come true. She was alone, abandoned by the man she once believed would always protect her. Her mother, though heartbroken, was unable to defy her husband. And Linda knew she had no choice but to leave. With nowhere else to turn, Linda packed her things and left her parents' home. Loretta, ever the loyal friend, took her in temporarily, but Linda could not shake the overwhelming sense of loss. She had lost everything: her family, her standing in the church, and the life she had once envisioned for herself. Loretta tried to encourage Linda, reminding her that her mistakes did not define her and that she could still turn her life around. But Linda, consumed by guilt and regret, struggled to see a way forward. She felt as though she had fallen too far to ever be redeemed. Months passed and Linda's pregnancy became more visible. With no financial support from her parents and no way to contact Obinna, she had to drop out of university and find a job. She managed to secure a position at a small retail store. Finally, the day came when Linda went into labor. With no family to rely on, Loretta stayed by her side throughout the entire process, offering comfort and support. After hours of excruciating pain, Linda gave birth to a healthy baby boy. Holding him in her arms, she felt a rush of emotions, joy, relief, and an overwhelming sense of responsibility. She named him David after the biblical king who had overcome great trials. As she stared into her son's innocent eyes, Linda could not help but reflect on her journey. She had made so many mistakes, hurt so many people, and lost so much. But in that moment, all of her regrets seemed to fade away, replaced by a determination to give her son a better life. She promised herself that she would be the mother he deserved, even if it meant facing the challenges ahead on her own. One important lesson from this story is that irresponsible decisions often lead to unexpected and life-altering consequences. But it is never too late to begin again, even after you feel like you have lost everything. Thank you.